Morning, everyone. Um, I hope to get across to you today the value of attendance because attendance is everything. So, where shall I start? It's such a big topic. Um, so, I'd like to start with reading from Isaiah chapter 55, verses 8 through 9. It says, and you should know that God spoke through the prophets in the Old Testament, and he speaks through the apostles in the New Testament. And the Bible is very clear where it says, when the Lord of the second advent returns, he'll tell you plainly of the Father. So what does that mean? Well, in May 1951 and 1952, True Father wrote the completed Testament. Jesus didn't write the New Testament, the apostles did. But in the completed Testament age, it's straight from the top. So getting back to Isaiah chapter 55, 8 through 9, it says, "My thoughts are nothing like your thoughts, says the Lord, and my ways are far beyond anything you can imagine. For just as the heavens are higher than the earth, so my ways are higher than your ways, and my thoughts are higher than your thoughts." Well, if that's true, then how can we ever become one with God? If God's thinking is different from yours, how can we become God's children? And the only way to become God's children is through the path of attendance. So I'd like to try to get that across by my own personal experience. In 2006, my wife and four of my kids moved from Staten Island, New York, and we moved to Kona, Hawaii. It took all our money to get there, one-way ticket. And we got lucky. My wife got a job in the King Kamehameha Hotel as a maid. And my two kids, Alex and Christine, got a job at the UPS office. And Jeffrey got a job at a coffee shop. And Mary, she was too young to work, but we were all working in town. And I was hired as a development director for the High School of the Pacific. And the business arm of the High School of the Pacific was called PRID. And I was hired as the president of PRID. It sounds like a lot, but it didn't pay much. So anyway, at that time, the church bought a nice house for True Parents called King Garden. And King Garden is in this development. It's 100 acres. And there are 19 5-acre lots. So it's like a big rectangle about 900 feet up Hualalai Mountain. And there's a road that goes through it called K-A-U-M-A-L-U-M-A-L-U, Kaumalu Drive. So that's Hawaiian. And you know what it means? Kau, K-A-U, means my or mine. And Malu means peace. So Malu is, real, deep peace. So that's where True Parents were going to move to. 62, I think it was 6286 Kaumalu Drive, Kona, Hawaii. So when I got there, the focus was on getting True Parents moved into King Garden. So my family, we all pitched in, volunteered. worked on the grounds, did painting and so on. And the outgoing president, his name was Tony, I was going to take over his job. And we were supposed to get all the furniture and furnish the house. But I don't know anything about furniture, and neither did Tony. So he hired an interior decorator. And she went around measuring the house and visualizing where all the furniture is going to go. And so she would go into town and pick out all the pieces, and we go pay for them and bring them and put them inside the house. So we assembled all these beds, like dressers, furnished the whole place. But True Parents, they did their own. So we furnished the house, and True Parents moved in. So soon after that, I transferred my real estate broker's license from New York to Hawaii. I think I was the only person on the planet Earth that was attending True Parents and had a Hawaii broker's license. So I was in a unique position. So I told them, listen, there's 2 more lots next to King Garden, buy those. So they did. So they bought 10 acres. So King Garden is about 6 acres and 2 5-acre pieces. So they bought those, and they had coffee on them. You know, you ever seen coffee trees before? They're about, little red berries on them and so on. So soon after that, another property came up on the market, and it was right next door to King Garden, and we called it Queen Garden. So what happened is, Father was sitting in the chair here on the lanai, and Mother was standing behind True Father, holding him like this, smiling. And I was, that's very close. And the Korean leader, Mr. Kim, another one, and I was standing. And, I'd been a broker for about 20 years, and I looked at Mother and said, yeah, she wants this place. I didn't say anything, and then I was looking at True Father. I couldn't read him, but he says to me, how many people can I have here? And I said, as many as you want, but this is a gated community with restrictions. And then I said to True Father, the issue is about parking. You can't have a lot of cars going in and out. So the seller was inside, and True Parents got up, and they went inside, had coffee together, and I was told to write the contract. So I wrote it. And on page 12, there's a little section for the real estate commission. So understand that as a broker, I tell the escrow agency what to do. So if I had put a 6, the escrow agency would have cut me a check for over $400,000 commission. If I'd put a 3, it'd have been over $200,000. But what number do you think I put in there? 0, because I wasn't there to get rich. I was there to attend True Parents. And I'm really glad I did, and I'll tell you why later. I wrote a lot of notes because it's been about, almost 20 years ago. So I don't want to get it all mixed up. So the first thing True Mother did was she ripped out all the carpets. And we're talking about a 4,000 square foot house. Queen Garden. And fortunately, the previous owners, HSA now owns it. The contracts are done and everything. And True Mother wants a hardwood floor, a Koa hardwood floor, which is the most expensive wood in the world, and you can't get it anyway. So the closest thing is Brazilian cherry wood. So there's a whole bunch of people working on the house. It was really noisy. And finally they got the floor done, and this time I didn't have to buy the furniture, but True Mother had already bought it. And it was in a storage facility, and we just had to go get it. And so the truck pulls up, and it's chaos. And True Mother's in the living room looking at me because I'm standing on the truck. What I do? And I'm looking at her, and I go, and I point to the carpet. She goes, so we went in and put the carpet in, and it was really a nice Hawaiian area rug, you know. And it was a sage green couch. So, you know, the day went on, and as people started to leave, True Father came in from the bedroom when I saw him. He sat on the couch, and he started watching Korean old-time soap operas, I think. I watched them too, they're pretty good. And the volume was really loud. And I thought, oh, Father, hard of hearing. But then later on I learned that he was mourning the passing of Yojanan. And he didn't want anybody to know. And I understood then whenever there's a failure in the province of attendance, true parents pay the price. So anyway, I also was a driver. So whenever true parents were going to come in town, we would drive. So we would receive advance notice, and we'd have to go rent some vans and so on. So one time, a brother named Bruce was driving, and True Father was sitting up front. And I was in the van following Bruce's van, and we pulled into the airport telephone area where you can, you know, so True Father's waiting for True Mother to land. So I'm like, you know, because I situated my van to protect, you know, True Father. So I'm looking at him, he's taking a little cat nap. And so as soon as Mother comes, Father's there. And then I picked up the luggage and the staff and some of the children. So later on, I became the manager of Queen Garden. I managed the property. What that meant was, here's an empty house in a very exclusive gated community. So I wanted to make sure nobody broke in. So I would go there in the morning, walk around, and then I would do the same thing at night, walk around. In other words, by my presence, people would be less likely to rob the place. So I was managing the property, and there was a 3-car garage next to the main house, and in the garage was a office. So I made it my office. And it had a bathroom and a sink, and it was really nice. So one time I got the electric bill, and it was $3,000. So I said, wow, that's crazy. For 1 month, $3,000. So I went and I bought all these energy efficient lights, and I went around and changed them all. And I had to go into two parents' bedroom So True Parents' bedroom was very neat and tidy. It had a California king bed in there and dresser, and nothing really fancy, except maybe the toilet. It was one of those where you put the seat down and would play a song. And I didn't see any of True Mother's clothes, but I saw True Father's clothes, most of them from Walmart. So many times members would see True Mother shopping at Walmart in town. So, so whenever True Parents were coming, the staff, their personal staff would come, and I showed them how there are 4 air conditioning units. It was a big deal. It was a very high-end house, and it was made so that all the doors and the windows should remain closed, and whenever somebody come in, it's called PNP, the pressure would push the air out, so to keep the air purified. And that's a good thing because True Father had lung problems, especially living in the Big Island with fog, which is basically sulfuric acid and glass mixed in with clouds. So I made sure that all the handlers had good filters and so on. So I was attending True Parents. I was watching out for them. So when the staff would show up, I would disappear because True Parents were there. It was family time. It was a private time for True Family. You can imagine, right? They needed their own time with their grandkids and so on. So I would check out as soon as they came. So like I said, I was a driver, and one time we went to the Queen shops, and I was driving the staff around. So I was sitting in the car and looking in the mirror, and True Father was in a wheelchair. I never saw True Father in a wheelchair, have you? Because anyway, he was in the wheelchair, and another staff member was massaging his legs. They were really having a great time. Father was doing wheelies, spinning around. And so they didn't really need me, so I said, because I knew the place very well, I went to Starbucks, used the bathroom, got a coffee, and on my way back to the van, True Mother comes walking by. She's looking at me, what is this church member going to do? So I kind of read her mind, and I said, very, and I just went to do my job as a driver. So, like I said, I had an office in Queen Garden, and one time it had a back entrance, because it was designed so that people working on the property wouldn't have to go into the house, use the bathroom. They could use the bathroom on the back of the garage. So I went through the back entrance, and I ran into Mother, and she's skipping down. I got to know True Mother well, and I just want to say that she lives in the moment. Like the eternal, like God lives in the eternal now, True Mother's always living in the moment. It's so wonderful being around True Mother. So when I was coming back from Starbucks, I really wanted to say, hey, Mother, could I buy you a cup of coffee? But it wasn't my place to do that. So I didn't. But I wish I had, but she probably would have said no anyway. So I got to know True Mother, and so I also found out that True Parents wanted to buy a coffee farm. See, part of attending is anticipating what True Parents want. So I said, what are they really doing here? You know, I know they like Kona coffee for sure. So I said, I'll bet you they want a coffee farm. So the coffee belt is 10 miles long, 2 miles wide. So I went up every road, looked at every coffee farm, and I found one. I said, aha, this is it. Real estate is not about property. It's about people, what do people like. So I said, if True Parents want a coffee farm, I'll show it to them. So they did want a coffee farm, but they bought it through another broker. And guess which farm they bought? The one that I would have shown them. But anyway, that means we're on the same wavelength, I guess. So one time I was in King Garden, and it was after Hyundai, and Dr. Sam, he lived on the Big Island. He worked with Mother Teresa for 7 years. And he ran for mayor, and I was his campaign manager. The commissions I earned from selling the 10 acres of land, I bankrolled his campaign. And so he told Father that Don Archer is the only one that helps me. So I was sitting in King Garden, and I'm by myself, and I hear, I look up, and it's Father. He's knocking on the wall to get my attention. And he can't bend his knees, so someone's helping him with his shoes. So he goes, I looked at him. I don't know why he did that, but I found out later Dr. Sam told me. And I said, well, thank you, Dr. Sam. That was the only time True Father ever acknowledged me. I've been in the movement since 1976, but that's okay. That was enough. So, so they bought a coffee farm, and then I thought, well, what are they going to do when they go to the coffee farm? Where are they going to go? It's a farm. So I said, so I ended up managing the coffee farm. So I'm the manager of the warehouse, the manager of Queen Garden, and now I'm the manager of the coffee farm. I don't know anything about coffee, but I learned. So I said, well, when True Parents come, what are they going to do here? So I said, let's build them a deck. So we built them a deck with a really nice view. It's about 1,000 feet up, and you can see the whole Pacific Ocean. I mean, there's nothing better than a Kona sunset. So anyway, I was ready for that. And then another day, I got a call from Mr. Kim, and he says to me, Father wants to see that other property for sale. And that became known as Peace Garden. So I thought ahead. I had the key. I called the broker, and I had the key, and I said to Mr. Kim, I can be there in 20 minutes. But I got there earlier. I turned on all the lights, opened up all the doors, and exactly right on time, True Father pulls up. Now, I learned from watching True Mother, I learned how to be around True Father, which means I didn't say a word. So opened the door, and I didn't say anything, and they just looked around. And it's a pod house, you know what that is? Pod house is where it's three sections of a house, and so it was built by a Japanese corporation for their high executives. And so there's one building which had the living room and the kitchen, and that overlooked the pool. And then there was another two, one was just one floor, and another building was two floors. So they would go around, and I would follow them. And True Father went up the stairs, and he's looking over the Nye, and he says, "Nice view." And then we go downstairs and go outside. And now we're looking at the coffee trees. And the coffee trees are coffee trees. And Peter Kim says, "They look like coffee." And the first time I spoke, I said, "Then they are." And everybody looked at me, got a chuckle, you know. And then True Father jumped in his Yukon, and Reverend Yu rolled down the back window, and he says, "Write it up." So I wrote it up, and this time I have to deal with page 12 again, the commission. Now understand, it's expensive having a broker's license. There are fees, you got to pay taxes, and you got to pay continuing education. So the commission was 3%, which is about $60,000. So I said, "No, I know where this money comes from." It comes from HSA. I don't want it. On the other hand, I have to deal with the brokers. You know, it's an exclusive club, everybody. So I called the broker and I said, "Lower the sales price 1.5% and write in my commission for 1.5%. And that was a big mistake. And let me tell you why. I got the commission, but I put the money in the stock market, and I lost it all. And not only that, when we were having Hyundai, Father bought this house, this estate, for his staff. So while we were all in Hyundai, someone broke into their house, stole the staff's, all their computers, their cameras, and 10 grand in cash. And that was because of me, my failure in attending. I should have put, like I did before, 0. Because I was the central figure of the real estate. So I should have put 0, but I justified it to myself. Oh, well, I shouldn't have. And so True Mother ended up selling the property at a loss. And she told the people that live on the Big Island to fast for a day. And she was looking at me, I think. So, do you understand what attendance is? Because of my mistake, by using that situation to get money for myself, that was a condition for evil to move in. Whereas, because it didn't even enter my mind to charge a commission for Queen Garden, which would have been a whole lot more. But that was the right thing to do because they still have Queen Garden today, whereas the other house is gone. And they lost money on it when they sold it. So I just want to tell you how important it is to attend well. To attend well. I don't know how much. I can talk a lot. Do you want me to talk more? So, like I said, I was a driver, and I was called to go to Queen Garden and drive two mothers, children, and grandchildren to the airport. And so I went there. I tried to get there a little early, and I came through the lower gate, Mackay Gate, and then up the Kaumalamala Drive. I made a ride into Queen Garden, and I had the combination to that gate. So I go through the second gate, and there's True Mother in the driveway, hugging her grandchildren and saying goodbye to her children. And I didn't want to be there because I knew it was a private moment. And the next thing you know, Satan shows up. And guess who he attacks? Me. Satan exposed himself to me because here's 3 generations of True Parents family, and he can't get to them, but he can get to me. And I said, oh, what is that? It was like this shadow trying to control my soul. It's such a horrible feeling. But then I said, I got a job to do, get lost. I got to drive True Mother's family to the airport, so goodbye. So because I made a stand, and Mother knew I was conflicted, but because I was practicing absolute obedience to my mission, I was protected. The devil couldn't grab me and do whatever. So, like I said, attending is everything. It determines where you go into the spirit world. Just like Jesus said, whatever you bind on earth, you bind in heaven. Well, attending is just new language for that. So, I was wondering how I should close this out. I have a lot of Bible quotes, but I think I've been hanging around the New Testament churches too long. But I do want to read. I want to read James. Now, who is James? James was the younger brother of Jesus. He's the younger half brother of Jesus. And the first book of the New Testament is the book of James. And here's what James says. If you are wise and understand God's ways, prove it by living an honorable life, doing good works with the humility that comes from wisdom. But if you are bitterly jealous, and believe me, because I was the manager of a warehouse, Queen Garden, and a coffee farm, members were jealous of me. You know what Ho'oponopono is? I used to practice it on the members. But before I did that, I practiced on True Parents. I was in the family room in King Garden, and Ho'oponopono is Hawaiian for make right with the other person. And what you do is you say, let's say my wife. I want to do Ho'opono with my wife. I would say, Nobugo, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. Thank you. Nobugo, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. So I did that for a half hour in front of True Parents. And they were watching me. What's this guy doing? Because when you do Ho'oponopono, that removes a lot of crap between you and the other person. So I practiced on True Parents first, and then I started working on the members that were jealous of me. I do Ho'oponopono. Ron, I'm sorry, please forgive me. I love you, thank you. So anyway, it works. Oh, sorry, let me get back to James here. So James says, but if you are bitterly jealous and there is selfish ambition in your heart, don't cover up the truth with boasting and lying, which is what people do. People have two problems. They have a degraded nature, and they're blinded by Satan. So that's what James is talking about. Degraded nature. Where does that come from? From being self-centered, not seeing from God's point of view, not attending the Messiah properly. For jealousy and selfishness are not God's kind of wisdom. Such things are earthly, unspiritual, and demonic. For wherever there is a jealousy and selfish ambition, you will find disorder and evil of every kind. But the wisdom from above is first of all pure. So another word for absolute is pure, like this gold ring. This gold ring is the same on the outside as it is on the inside. So when we talk about absolute obedience, we're talking about pure obedience. When we talk about absolute faith, we're talking about pure faith. When we talk about absolute love, we're talking about pure love. So that was the failure of Adam and Eve. They didn't attend God. They didn't practice absolute obedience and absolute faith, and therefore they couldn't help their children experience absolute love. That was the failure of Adam and Eve. And true parents are correcting that. It says in the Bible, you are invited to be a partner with the Messiah. So how do you be a partner with the Messiah? Understand that the Messiah is absolutely committed to attending and liberating God 100%. And so if you want to become like God and have no separation from God, you need to be like true mother and true father in the completed Testament age, or like Jesus and the Holy Spirit in the New Testament age. So attendance is everything. And when you're a central figure, there's no room for mistake. But the wisdom from above is, first of all, pure. It is also peace-loving, gentle at all times, and willing to yield to others. It is full of mercy and good deeds. It shows no favoritism and is always sincere. And those who are peacemakers will plant seeds of peace and reap a harvest of righteousness. So like I told you, the address of True Parents' house was Kyle Malo Drive. It took me a couple of years to be able to say that, but the meaning is so deep. Malo means peace, 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 peace. Now I want to read one more thing and then I'll sit down. And this is pledge number 8, paragraph number 8. And what does it say? Anybody know? If you know, stand up and recite it. No takers? Okay, I'll just. Number 8 says, our family, the owner of Chung-il-guk, pledges, having entered the era of Chung-il-guk, to achieve the ideal of God and human beings united in love through right, and you can say them in different order depending on where you're at. But it says in the written word is absolute faith, absolute love, and absolute obedience in that order, and to perfect the realm of liberation. Wouldn't it be so great if there's no more Satan ready to kill you? Just imagine the day when that's all gone. That's worth attending for, don't you think? and to perfect the realm of liberation and complete freedom in the kingdom of God on earth and in heaven by centering on true love. So we're there. We have entered the era of Chungabuk. You understand that, right? This is the last of the last days. And when that temple is opened up, I don't know for sure, but I think that's the beginning of the end of the Satan's sovereignty on the earth. What do you think? So I'd like to end here, and I hope you, let me give you one more example. Do you know who Keiko Nakamura is? She's a state leader in Hawaii. And Chumother said, she had her own house and her own family on Maui, which is another Hawaiian island. Chumother said, sell your house and move to Honolulu. So she did it. I'm a broker. I know how tough that is. She went from selling her own house, moving to Honolulu, paying $2,500 or more for a rental in Honolulu, because Chumother said. So I was the selling broker for the center on Wilder Street. And my daughter Christine, Reverend Dakami said, Christine, do you know any brokers? And she said, my dad's one. So my daughter called me and said, Reverend Dakami found a place. He wants you to take a look at it. So I immediately jumped on a plane because I know that market. If it's a good property, it's gone in a weekend. So I jumped on a plane. I looked at it. I spoke to the selling agent and I said, I want to see the inside of the house. And his name was James. And so I went inside the house, and I couldn't believe what I saw. The floor was koa wood, just like your mother put in Queen Garden. And guess what color the walls are painted? Sage green, the same color. I said, can't be a coincidence. This has got to be something vertical. So from a real estate point of view, I looked at the area, and Punahou, where Obama went to high school, is right up the street. The University of Hawaii, the main entrance is like 3 blocks away. Across the street from this house is a dormitory for the University of Hawaii. So you didn't even have to go on campus to witness. You could just walk outside your door and set up a table and say, hey, come on over. So some church members were against it. I couldn't understand that, but I knew for sure that this was the property. So they bought the property, and that was a lot of work. I had to deal with Kay Allen because she's the New York attorney, and she's the one that signs off on the contract and releases the money. More lawyers kill real estate deals than you can imagine, but thankfully I knew Kay and Russell from living in New York. And so it was a 6-hour time difference. And so I was, on the phone at 3 in the morning, talking to the seller side. And finally we came to an agreement. She almost blew it. I'm not paying that much. And anyway, that was in 2016. And it turned out just the way I thought it would. It's doubled in value since they bought it. So Keiko was renting. And your mother says, Reverend Dakami says, why don't you move in? So Keiko practiced absolute obedience, absolute faith. She sold her house in Maui and ended up living in this nice place. And she also became the state leader. So I just want to say that how you attend is everything. Thank you.